Okay, good morning, everybody. Sorry for this technical difficulties we experienced just now. I think there was some, the message could not get through when Sam was speaking. So I will just go ahead and start today's.
David?
Yeah.
Sorry, David, can you hear me now better?
Yes.
Okay, sounds great. So I was able to call in using my phone rather than my computer.
Okay, Sam, I'll let you go repeat again, okay? Just stand by. Thanks.
Sure. Okay, great. And I can see a couple of folks are saying the voice is much better now. Sorry, folks, technical issues as always. So I'll just repeat. Good morning and afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our SOAR 2020 Emissions Inventory webinar. I'm Sam Fornazeri, Chief of the Mobile Source Analysis Branch at the California Air Resources Board. My team at CARB is responsible for development of tools and modeling platforms to estimate emissions from all mobile sources operating in California, from cars and trucks all the way to off-road equipment such as rail, construction, and lawn and garden. Today I'm here with my off-road gasoline emission inventory team, David Cho, who you just heard him. He's the manager of the off-road gasoline inventory, and he's here with us with three of his lead staff, Walter Wong, Debbie Futaba, and Kaishan Zhang. Also with us are our small off-road engine regulatory team, Christopher Dilbeck, who's the manager of the testing and certification sections, along with his lead staff, Dorothy Fibiger, our lead regulatory staff on the SOAR rulemaking. They will help us with any regulatory related questions. So as part of our webinar today, we would like to present to you our latest update to the small off-road engine emissions inventory. Small off-road engines, or SOAR, are referred to as spark ignition engines rated at or below 19 kilowatts or 25 horsepower, which are mainly used in lawn and garden equipment as well as other outdoor power equipment specialty vehicles. Today's presentation will provide you with results from preliminary data analysis that the staff has conducted over the past year, along with preliminary estimates of emissions resulting from these updates. Please consider these results as preliminary, as we're still working to fine-tune the assumption. As we go through this workshop, we definitely encourage you to share with us any available data or information or any suggestion that you think can help us to improve our assumptions and estimates. Before going through the presentation, I would like to first apologize for any technical issue that may arise during the presentation. We're all practicing social distancing, and as a result, we're working remotely, and we might experience some connectivity issues during the presentation, as we just experienced one at the beginning. So I apologize in advance. We first plan to go through the slides, followed by a short demonstration of SOAR 2020 model, and then we will open up for a question and answer. For questions or comments, you can simply type your question through the webinar question box located on the GoToWebinar dashboard. During the question and answer session, we'll go through the questions and we'll answer them accordingly. In case there is a follow-up question, you would like to further discuss your question, you can raise your hand using the GoToWebinar raise hand option, and we will try to unmute you so you can speak. Please note that this webinar is only scheduled from 10 to 12, and in case we cannot get through all of the questions, we'll make sure to follow up with you after the workshop. Your questions are listed on the question log, and we do have your email address as well. You can also find our contact information, including the contact info for our lead inventory staff, Mr. Walter Wong, on slide 49. So feel free to email us your questions and comments after the workshop, and we'll make our best effort to get back to you as soon as we can. At the end, please note that this workshop is being recorded. We'll try to make the video available on our mobile source emission inventory website. And that's it. And with that, I'll hand it over to David Cho to start the presentation. David?
Sure. Thank you, Sam, for the brief introduction. Good morning and good afternoon, everybody. This is David Cho speaking, and welcome to the webinar. Slide number 2, please. It looks like there's a little bit lag time to go into slide number 2. I will just go over that. The slide number 2 is the outline for today's workshop. My staff and I will go over the purpose, timeline, and major updates in the SOAR inventory. We will briefly summarize the results from the Cal State Fullerton survey. and discuss how we developed the emission factors and came up with the population growth. I will also share with you the next steps after this workshop. Slide number 3. Sam already described what are the small operable engines. They basically, most of them are for the lawn, they are mostly spark ignition engines. They are less than 19 kilowatts or 25 horsepower. They are used primarily in the lawn and garden application and other outdoor power equipment and specialty vehicles. As shown on this slide, some examples of small operable engines are lawnmower, leaf blower, compressor, and generator. Slide number 4. There are several reasons why we update the SOAR inventory. First of all, the data and assumption used in R4 2007 are not up to date, they're outdated. Second, we need to use the latest available data to support future amendments to SOAR exhaust and evap regulations. Number 3, we have new population and activity data from the 2018 survey, annual engine production volume from the production line testing data, as well as the annual production volume of SOAR equipment from the evap reporting data. Finally, we have more emission data from the CARB certification database, as well as recent in-house test data. So all those information is helping us to update this model. Slide 5. This slide shows the timeline related to the SOAR inventory development. After today's workshop is over, we encourage the stakeholders to provide us comments or suggestions by April 24th. We hope to make some adjustment to the draft SOAR inventory based on the comments and feedback received today. We plan to release the draft inventory document and the draft model around May or June in 2020. Next slide, slide number 6. We have developed a standalone SOAR inventory model using Visual Basics as the coding platform. In addition to the population and activity data from the 2018 survey, we have annual engine production volume data, as well as the reported SOAR equipment sales, SOAR equipment production volume from sales from manufacturers, More importantly, we have included a new subcategory for landscaping service providers or vendors. Those vendors come in once a week or once every 2 weeks for lawn and landscape service in many single-family houses. This category is new and is not in the previous model. Furthermore, to help us keep track the population of electric lawn and garden equipment, we have created a module to estimate the growth of electric lawn and garden equipment. Finally, the emission factors are based on the latest in-house test data and certification database. And now I'm going to turn the time to Debbie Futapa, who will briefly summarize the 2018 Cal State Fullerton survey.
Okay, thanks, David. The next slide, please. The Cal State Fullerton SOAR survey was completed in May of 2019, and it consisted of a telephone survey of 1,152 households, 1,350 businesses, and 629 vendors. Overall, the residential results made up 37% of the total survey, 43% for the business sector, and 20% were vendors or landscape service providers. Next slide, please. From the residential survey, 44% of the respondents indicated that they own lawn and garden equipment. In addition, 45% of the respondents do their own yard work, 37% use a vendor, and 18% use a combination of the two to maintain their landscape. Next slide, please. The off-road 2007 inventory contains 16 million pieces of gasoline lawn and garden equipment, including lawnmowers, trimmers, and blowers. In comparison, the survey population of gasoline equipment was about 9.5 million. Additionally, the survey indicated that there are approximately 8.4 million lawn and garden equipment that are electric powered, or in total 17.9 million lawn and garden equipment in California. For the light commercial category, which includes generators, pumps, and pressure washers, the survey showed approximately 3 million gasoline and 7.3 million electric equipment, which indicated that Off-Road 2007's total population of 439,000 was underestimated for the light commercial equipment category. Next slide, please. Slide 11 is a visual representation of the previous slide and compares the population from the survey in blue to Off-Road 2007 in yellow for lawn and garden equipment. Next. Similarly, slide 12 illustrates the population of light commercial equipment from the survey, shown in blue, as compared to Off-Road 2007 in yellow. You can see that there are approximately twice the amount of electric light commercial equipment in green as compared to gasoline-powered in blue. Next. Here is a comparison of the lawn and garden equipment by sector and fuel type. The survey showed that the majority of electric lawn and garden equipment is purchased by the residential sector, and gasoline-powered equipment is utilized to a higher degree by businesses and vendors. Next. To refine the allocation of SOAR equipment from the survey, the state was divided up into 3 regions: the northern, central upper, and southern. The survey population was scaled to reflect household information from each of these regions. Next. Slide 15 compares the activity or annual hours of use from the survey versus Off-Road 2007. In general, the survey indicated that residential activity for lawn and garden equipment increased, but decreased for light commercial equipment. The activity in the business sector decreased for lawn and garden and light commercial equipment as compared to Off-Road 2007. Next. This is a side-by-side representation of the top 3 equipment in the lawn and garden and light commercial residential category, showing the current activity from Off-Road 2007 and the activity from the survey. For the top 3 equipment in the light commercial category, the survey indicated that the activity was overestimated in off-road. In contrast, the residential activity for chainsaws and lawnmowers was higher in the survey. Next. Here are the top 3 lawn and garden and light commercial equipment in the business and vendor sectors. The survey activity for compressors, pressure washers, and chainsaws decreased as compared to Off-Road 2007. Again, please note that the Off-Road 2007 model did not include the sector for vendors or landscape service providers. Next. Slide 18 illustrates the median life of gasoline equipment in the lawn and garden and light commercial categories obtained from the survey. The median life corresponds to the age when 50% of the population is still in existence. In general, residential equipment have a higher median life as compared to their counterparts in the business or vendor sector, primarily due to their lower annual usage, which is reflected as an increase in equipment longevity. Next. Okay, and next Walter Wong will present the development of emission factors.
All right, thank you, Debbie. Hello, my name is Walter Wong, and I work in the Mobile Source branch under David, and I help with Kashan and Debbie to put the inputs together for this model. So For slide 19, the development of emission factors. Emission factors are broken up into exhaust and evaporative emissions. When the equipment is used, there's exhaust emission and some running loss evaporative emission. When not running, evaporative emissions occur, usually through the fuel hose, fuel tank, cap, and carburetor. We will first look at exhaust emission factor. Next. The next slide. In our modeling, exhaust emission factors are based on data from CARB in-house testing and the small off-road certification database. CARB tested 11 new four-stroke equipment such as lawnmower, trimmer, tillers, and generators over the last few years. We used those test data and averaged it with data submitted by manufacturers when they certify their engine with CARB. Where we don't have test data for equipment type, we use submitted certification emission factors. Next. In slide 21, these are the comparisons. Whoa. Hello? All right. Slide 21. These are the comparisons of in-house test data. Is there a feedback somewhere? Okay, these are the comparisons of in-house test data versus what is in our off-road 2007 model. For these selected equipment, in-house testing shows that HC plus NOx exhaust emission factor was generally higher than off-road 2007, except for generators. Next. Slide 22. This is the compiled certification database for all equipment for 2018. Generally, the numbers don't change too much years to year. Two-stroke gasoline or G2 carbureted engines have higher emission factors, and four-stroke gasoline G4 fuel injected have the lowest emission factors. Okay, am I back on? All right. Next slide. Next slide. It's taking a while to change the slides. All right. These are the proposed exhaust emission factors for HC and NOx. The proposed exhaust emission factors are compared against what was used in off-road. For HC, the proposed emission factor is generally higher for most equipment, as shown in the blue graph. For NOx, there's a mix, as some equipment factors are higher and some are lower. For lawn mowers and trimmers, the NOx is higher. All right, next slide. All right, in the previous slide, we presented the 0-hour emission factor. The other part of the emission factor calculation is deterioration rate. So usually 0-hour emission factors are usually set below the emission standard, as seen in that little red dot. We set the deterioration to meet the emission standard at some durability hours. In this example, for less than 5 horsepower lawnmower, for residential population of lawnmower, the lowest of the durability our range of 125 hours is used. For commercial population of lawnmower, we set the durability hour at the high end of the range at 500 hours. We also set a cap rate where the equipment does not deteriorate but stays constant after certain hours at 750 hours. Next. These are the load factors being used in our model. It remains the same as what was in off-road 2007. Generally, the lawn and garden category, the load factors are lower, and for light commercial, the load factors are higher. Next. This is a comparison for average horsepower that we use as input. Generally, for lawn and garden, the average horsepower is slightly higher than what is in off-road. And for light commercial, the average horsepower is similar to what we use in off-road. So you can see the lawnmower, we had 4.6, and then in off-road, we had 4. Next slide. The next part of the inputs we're going to talk about is evaporative emission. So evaporative emission for diurnal and hot soaks are derived from CARB comprehensive testing of 71 equipment tested during compliance and validation study performed by our monitoring and laboratory divisions over the last few years. We are not able to use SOAR certification database as most manufacturers don't submit evaporative testing data. Next. Testing data is compared against what was used in off-road 2007. Lawn and garden equipment testing were mostly comparable to what was used in off-road 2007. For light commercial, testing shows higher evaporative emission rate than presently used in off-road 2007, as can be seen under generators and compressors. And also lawnmower is a little higher than what we use in off-road. Next. For evaporative deterioration factor, we did not change or update deterioration factors from off-road 2007. So we're going to go over what we used in off-road 2007. In off-road 2007, deterioration factors are applied only to lawn and garden equipment. Light commercial equipment do not have deterioration factors because we did not have any test data to determine what rates to use. For lawn and garden, we applied deterioration factor based on testing done in 2003 test program. For most equipment, they use one deterioration factor, but in this example, the lawnmower testing done in the 2003 testing showed that using 2 DR was appropriate for lawnmower. This takes into account that much older equipped lawnmowers will have higher evaporative emission after useful life because of leakage from fuel hose, fuel tank cap, or carburetor bowl. Next. Before we go into the population and growth forecast, we'd like to make a brief statement. We recognize that the COVID-19 pandemic has had a significant impact on different sectors of the economy in California, and the related shutdowns and restrictions may have reduced the landscaping business activity over the past couple of weeks. The equipment population and emission projections we are presenting today are long-term forecasts and do not account for the near-term impact of the COVID-19 pandemic on the small off-road equipment. However, as we move forward with development of this inventory over the next 6 months, we will closely track and monitor the ongoing impact of COVID-19 and will make any necessary adjustments to the assumptions presented today when data becomes available. The next slide. These are the steps we use in putting together the population calculations. Survey data from 2001, 2012, and the Cal State Fullerton 2018 surveys were used. These surveys provided fleet, gasoline, and electric population for different equipment. 2001 and 2012 ARB survey provided population estimates for lawn and garden equipment type, while 2018 survey had both lawn and garden and light commercial population estimates. The surveys also provided age distribution, which we used to start the survival curve estimates. After trial and error, the best fit survival curves were calculated to match fleet population estimates from 2001, 2012, and 2018 survey numbers. We used the 2018 SOAR evaporative reporting numbers to check against new equipment sales in 2018. We also looked at annual shipment data shared by OPEI for reasonableness in our population calculation. And finally, we used the California household growth as a surrogate for New Year sales growth after 2019. Next. Here's an example of the survival curve for lawnmower. For age distribution data and survival curve data, the highest sale of a given model year doesn't occur until after 1 or 2 years. Slide 33. This is an example of our population calculation for gasoline lawnmower. The black line is Off-Road 2007 model for lawnmowers back in 2007. Off-Road 2007 didn't account for recession and used fleet growth in the projection. SOAR 2020 model only tries to match the fleet population estimates from the 2001, 2012, and 2018 survey, as seen in the dots. Next. We use the California household annual growth rate as a surrogate for New Year sales for 2020 and after. Staff looked at different types of surrogates, such as growth in automobile registration and growth in capita durable goods against historical PLT shipment growth rate. We found that per capita durable goods was a reasonable surrogate, but a lack of future long-term forecast for this indicator was hard to find. We think the household growth rate is a better surrogate because of its stable growth and seems reasonable that a number of lawn and garden and light commercial equipment per household should not change too much. From this chart, the household growth rate indicates two slopes. From 2000 to 2018, the average annual growth rate was around 1%. When the Great Recession hit, the household annual growth rate slowed from 2009 to 2020 of around 0.44. For future growth rate after 2020, and the average annual growth rate from 2020 to 2030 is around 0.6%. So our target growth rate is around 0.6%. Next. Staff looked at the historical growth rate from PLT data for recent years after a recession for gasoline storage equipment. We looked at the growth rate of both handheld equipment and non-handheld equipment. As shown in the green line, the handheld equipment growth rate for chainsaw, leaf blower, and trimmers recently shows no growth. It's a flat line. This is consistent as more people are converting to using electric handheld equipment. For non-handheld equipment, like lawnmowers and generators, there is a slight increase in the growth rate, as seen in the yellow. Next. Next.
Loading.
Okay. This is the future growth rate being used in the model. We target a composite 0.6% growth rate combining both gas and electric equipment growth. For gas equipment, we use 0.5% for lawnmower and pressure washer and 0.7% for generators, and 0% growth for handheld equipment like chainsaw, leaf blower, and trimmers. The electric growth rate is calculated after inputting the gas growth rate and the targeted composite growth rate of 0.6% using the formula shown. Staff believes that these growth rates are pretty conservative. Next. We will now share some of the preliminary results from our modeling. Next. This is the baseline population comparison between SOAR 2020 and Off-Road 2007 for the two categories of lawn and garden light commercial. These two categories make up over 90% of the total SOAR equipment. As shown, SOAR 2020 projection, the solid black line under lawn and garden, is significantly lower than Off-Road 2007 projection. That is because Off-Road 2007 projections did not take into account 2008 recession and had higher fleet growth projection. From that same graph, it's also estimated that electric lawn and garden equipment population, the solid green line, will overtake gasoline lawn and garden population around 2030 as electric equipment growth continues. For light commercial, Off-Road 2007 vastly underestimated gasoline light commercial population with Buck, where Off-Road only had 530,000 equipment. The data from the 2018 survey shows about 3.1 million. This is the first time a survey for light commercial equipment has been done, as past survey focused only on lawn and garden equipment. So this kind of surprised us. Also, electric light commercial has a large population of over 8 million pieces of equipment, mostly consisting of air compressors, pumps, and welders. Next. This slide compares the combined ROG and NOx baseline emission. SOAR 2020 estimates are higher than Off-Road 2007, mainly because of light commercial equipment, higher estimates. Next. These next few slides break it down to see the difference for ROG and NOx. Similar to the population comparison for ROG, SOAR 2020 projection is lower than Off-Road 2007 in the lawn and garden category and higher in the light commercial category. The main factors for lawn and garden equipment that change compared to Off-Road 2007 are population is lower, but activity and average horsepower is higher. For more detail, as noted earlier on slide 39, population of lawn and garden equipment are lower by almost 30% as compared to Off-Road 2007. However, as shown in slide 15, activities for residential lawnmower is almost 50% higher. And also slide 23 also illustrates that emission factors for chainsaws are almost 2 times higher. And also indicated on slide 26, lawn and garden equipment has slightly higher average horsepower, and evaporative emission factors for lawnmowers are higher by 50%. So all these factors make up what goes into this modeling. For light commercial, population change is the main driver to see the big difference. Next. For lawn and garden NOx comparison, the main drivers are population is lower, but NOx emission factors, activity, and average horsepower are higher for SOAR 2020. For light commercial NOx comparison, population change is also the main driver. Next slide. In 2016, CARB posted a SOAR fact sheet that shows that SOAR equipment emitted more ROG and NOx as compared to passenger cars in the South Coast Air Basin. Updating the fact sheet with the new projections, SOAR equipment emitted even more than projected in 2016, mainly due to a significantly higher light commercial contribution. Next. All right, David will take over.
Thank you, Walter. I will move on with the slide number 43. I hope to address some of the concerns from the industry in the following slides. Okay, slide 44. Industry indicated that the ARFO 2007 overestimates the lawn and garden population and underestimates the light commercial population. We concur with the industry as the survey data does support the claims from the industry. So the survey does show that the lawn and garden population goes down while the light commercial population goes up. Supported and gasoline handheld equipment. Based on the industry's inputs and CARB growth analysis, the SOAR 2020 model assumes 0 annual growth for gasoline handheld equipment and between 0.5 to 0.7% growth for the ground supported equipment. Our overall growth assumption is rather conservative when compared to the 2019 OPEI nationwide forecast. This is shown in the OPES website. So we believe that our growth assumption is conservative. Slide 47. Industry also raised the concern that the emission factors in ARFO 2007 are not representative of the current technology. To improve the emission factors, we have utilized the latest certification database as well as in-house evap and exhaust testing on a wide variety of representative SOAR equipment. We find out that we have been underestimating some equipment such as chainsaws and generators. And because of that, we have updated the emission factors in the current model based on the latest testing data and certification database. Slide number 48. After today's workshop, we hope to incorporate the feedback from stakeholders into the SOAR 2020 model. We plan to release the draft inventory report around May or June 2020. And we expect to release the final inventory start report around September or October 2020. Slide 49. We welcome any questions or comments or feedback based on today's workshop. So if you have any comments, please contact us, Walter Wong or myself, David Cho, by April 24th. And so based on your comments and feedback, we hope to refine the draft inventory. Slide 50. Now I'm going to ask my staff, Kaishan, to do a demonstration of the SOAR 2020 model. So I'll let him to take over for the next few minutes. Kaishan?
Yeah, thank you. I'm going to demonstrate the use of a tool we developed in-house to estimate the emission inventory for small off-road engine. As you can see on this screen, we have this tool incorporate all the SOAR category, including lawn and garden and other 6 small category. So once you want to estimate the running, this tool is very straightforward. What you need to do is just select the seasonality and you put in the calendar year, and you are good to go. Going down to click the OK button, then you are good to go. Also in this tool, we also have some customized features. For example, you want to input any personal or your different scenario runs, you can click on the file you want to incorporate into the model. For example, you want to using your own correction factor, then you can go there and click the correction factor, and you are good to go. And once you click everything, then make sure you check this option to customize the input files. Then if you don't, by default, you automatically using the default files to run the model. Also, in this module, we also have some features for population estimation. Let me see, let me move this around. So in case you have your own growth factor or survival ratio, or you want to estimate the population to see how the population forecast is going to be, then this module also have this kind of functionality for you to play around. So for demonstration, I would use in a small category to run to show you how the model runs. For example, I'm using the transportation refrigeration unit. Choose summer and put a 2018. Then we just click OK. Then it will take about 30 seconds to finish. So while we're waiting, I'm going to this model is based on is a access-based VBA model. The reason what we are doing that is because the access is a very widely used platform in our branch. So now it's done. Let me show you the results. If we go to the transportation outputs, year 2018, and that's the result we get. This model gives you two detailed outputs. One is by calendar year, and one is by model year. The model year gives more detailed information, especially for given calendar year, the detailed model year. For this file, I just opened the by calendar year. So you got all the information by each calendar year, the GAI, the county air basin, air district, technology group, the rest of just all the information we need to know. So with that, I think I will give back to David.